Hello, good day everyone. So welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the Free Mind. So thank you so much for watching all my videos, for subscribing, for sending your likes. So I hope you are all doing fine and I hope you feel so great. So if you're going to ask me, I have a good news to make, no. So I just finished my Master of Arts in Guidance and Counseling. So aside from having a degree as BE Psychology and a license of psychometrician, I am now earning another degree for my Master of Arts in Guidance and Counseling. So thank you so much for that. Okay, so for today's vlog is I'll be explaining special education. This is just an introduction to special education. So I really do hope that you will get something out of this very quick discussion. Okay, so we will be talking about the influence of the physical and sociocultural environment on personality development. So we will be talking about it. So we will be talking about this one. No? We will be talking about personality development. So let's talk about the influence of the physical and sociocultural environment and personality development. So when you talk about physical, this is our physical body, about how we dress, how we define ourselves as a person. That is our physical body. And the sociocultural environment are those people surrounding us, are those people who are there with us, our sociocultural environment, our friends, our family, our barkada. So those are part of our socio-cultural environment. Okay, so the question is this. Are children and youth who are happy? Why is it there are on the other hand, there are also children and youth who are not happy and very discontented with lives? So the variations in human behavior are influenced by the basic determinants of personality development. So there are reasons why children and youth are happy and contented. On the other hand, there are children and youth who are not happy and very discontented with life. So if we talk about science, if we talk about personality development, so there are reasons, there are basic determinants of personality development. Number one is the person's genetic background. So genetic. So it is inborn, it is innate, it runs from the blood, that is genetic background or heredity na mana. Sa Tagalog pa na mana. Number two, basic determinants of personality development is environmental factors. So environmental factors for me played a vital role in the development of children, in the development of the children or youth. So they played a big role, environmental factors. So these are your friends, your family, your colleagues, your barkada. So they are also teaching you some personality, right? So the number three, so when you talk about environmental factors, for me, environmental factors, they played a very vital role in shaping the personality of our children or youth. So if you are surrounded with good barkada, good environment, so possibly the students or the children will also acquire good traits. If you are surrounded with people who are doing bad things, so possibly you're also influenced by that. But it's not an absolute rule, right? It's not an absolute rule. So but again, environmental factors played a major role in shaping the personality of the child. So number three is the general patterning of development. So this is the overall way of teaching your students or teaching your kids. For example, if you do this and then something bad is coming out, so you will not do it again. But if you do this and then something good is coming out, then you will do it over and over again. So that is the general patterning of development, the cause and effect. So usually the clan or the family teach its members to conform to certain practices and traditions. Yes, my parents taught me how to do this. My parents gave me a lot of advices, and I also follow their practices and traditions. And for me, it's a good thing because if I follow them, then for me, I will be a good daughter to them. So that's how we conform to certain practices and traditions. So parents teach their children to behave in ways that are appropriate to their social status. Declare that they want a good life for their children better than their own. Yes, it is. I think this is normal now for everyone, that our parents want us to have good future. That's why they want to send us to school to have a good future. So if they were not able to finish their college degree, so they will always tell us to be good at school, to have a degree, because it's not easy not to have a degree when you apply for a job. So until now, I am also applying that teaching to my parents. So a person, I am expected to follow various social roles demanded by the society, and I need to conform to the role demands of the society. Okay, so I need to be good. That's why I do good. I have to be like this. That's why I have to do it, because that is what is demanded by the society. So I will not do certain thing that will possibly hurt my family, because that is demanded by the society. Okay, so I am a good student, I am a good daughter, because that is how we conform to our parents. So if we do this, if we follow good traits, if we do good, so possibly we also receive some reinforcement, right? So they always give us money, prestige, and status. So on the other hand, negative reinforcement, I also experience being punished for not following instruction. Okay, so grounded. So I also experience negative reinforcement. If I do good, I receive positive reinforcement like money. I have more snacks when I was younger. On the other hand, if I do bad thing, if I don't follow or conform to the rules of my parents, I also get a negative reinforcement like punishment. So they always do that, right? But it's okay, because it's part of life. For me, it's okay to experience that way, no, but not too much. Okay, the favorable and unfavorable elements in both the physical and sociocultural environment strongly foster the person's value patterns and attitude. Yes, as long as it is not too much for the child, I think it is okay. But if it's too much, so I think we need to correct our sociocultural environment. Because then again, whatever you do to the physical and the sociocultural environment of that kid, it will of your child, it will also shape the person's value patterns and attitude of the child. Okay, so as a result, different environments shape different personality characteristic. Yes, if the environment is molding a loving and a very supportive family, so the child will develop a loving and a very supportive child. So if the child is experiencing negative, like full of punishment, full of hatred, lack of communication, so possibly the child will also develop a different family, and we need good people surrounding us. Okay, so we interact with various modes of behavior patterns that covers a wide range of both positive and negative experiences. Yes, because we are a social being. So we are a social being, so we develop a lot of different behavior patterns, whether it is good or bad. So we normally observe that to others. Okay? So the social reactions vary from acceptance to rejection, inclusion to exclusion, and similar reactions. So the way you behave, it really depends on how, if you will accept it or if you will reject it. So this is a choice. So when you talk about personality development, it is also a choice, because as you grow older, you are able to mingle with other people, and they also have their own social reactions. They also have their own personality development, whether it is positive or negative. So ideally, social roles should be clear and comfortable for the person. Yes, when you talk about social roles, we all have that, the social roles. So ingon pa sila, so as they say, youngest, they are very pampered, right? They are spoiled brat. So it's not true to all, because I am youngest, no. So it really depends on how we shape our personality as we go along. So yeah, uh it's nice to be it's nice to feel that I am the youngest, but sometimes, no, we don't know what will happen to us. So there's a lot of trials and challenges, no. And as the youngest, we are also able to develop our own personality through that. So however, social roles can be conflicting, but sometimes because of the demands of the society, our social roles can also be conflicting, unclear, and not understood. So it leads to misunderstanding, discomfort, negative feeling, and an unhealthy attitudes. So if you are the eldest, there's a lot of expectations about you. If you are the youngest, people will say that you are the most pampered one. So you are the spoiled brat. You get everything you wanted, but it's not true to all, right? So there are youngest who are very responsible, who know their social roles, and everybody knows about it, no, social roles. So whether you are the youngest or the eldest or the middle kid, so we all have that social roles. Okay, if we follow the demands, the disadvantage of this one, so if we follow the demands demanded by the society, sometimes it leads to misunderstanding, conflict, discomfort, and it leads to negative feeling and unhealthy attitude. Well, for me, it is true. So that's why we need to know our social roles should be clear and comfortable for the person. Based on science, the way you think, the way you select options, the way you make decisions and act about it are heavily influenced by how you think about yourself, your physical body, and your socio-cultural environment, your physical body and the people surrounding you. That truly shape the personality development of our children or youth. So adaptive behavior refers to a person's behavior patterns that have desirable consequences and foster his or her well-being and ultimately that of the group. So there are children who are called as adaptive children. They are because they are possessing adaptive behavior. So when you talk about adaptive behavior, it refers to a person's behavior patterns that have desirable consequences. So meaning if they so let's talk about adaptive behavior. So if you follow behavior patterns that have desirable consequences, it is called adaptive behavior. You have adaptive and maladaptive. So on the other hand, behavior who is maladaptive, if it results to negative and undesirable consequences and interferes with the person's optimal functioning and growth. Again, when you say about adaptive, if you follow behavior patterns that have desirable consequences, that you work for growth, fulfillment, and actualization of your potential, that is adaptive behavior. While maladaptive behavior if it results to negative and undesirable consequences and interferes with the person's optimal functioning and growth. So the use of the term maladaptive rather than abnormal, okay, puts the focus on the behavior rather than the person, thereby implying the possibility for improvement. Okay, so adaptive produce desirable consequences, maladaptive produce undesirable consequences, and it interferes with the optimal functioning and growth of the person. So if you consider yourself as maladaptive, so instead of using the word abnormal, because they are not abnormal, they are just being maladaptive. So when you say maladaptive, you are not focusing on the behavior, you are focusing on the person. So thereby implying the possibility for improvement. Okay, so let's not say abnormal. There are abnormal students. Let's say maladaptive students. So maladaptive behavior includes any behavior that has undesirable consequences for the individual as well as for the group. So behavior problems, emotional and behavioral disorders are manifestations of maladaptive behavior. So if you cannot control your behavior, they are very aggressive, emotional, very to the extreme. You cannot control your emotion. You have some behavioral disorders, right? These are manifestations of maladaptive behavior. So children's personality development is shaped in different sociocultural settings. So nevertheless, there are specific and interrelated trends in development that are universal in nature. So number one, so let's talk about children's personality development is shaped differently in different sociocultural settings. So let's specific and interrelated trends in development that are universal in nature. Number one is dependence to self-direction. When you talk about dependence to self-direction, is a child should have a clear sense of personal identity. And she also has a right to acquire new information, competencies, and values. So the end goal of the individual is to be a person in his or her own right. Okay, so the best way to develop children's personality development is give him or her the right to decide for her own life, no? So when the child is still young, so we need to guide them. As they grow mature, we also need to tell them or to teach them how to decide for their own. Okay, dependence to self-direction. The number two is pleasure to reality and self-control. So early behavior is governed by the pleasure principle, right? If you still remember Sigmund Freud, he talks about pleasure, that we all need pleasure. Sa Bisaya pa, lingaw, lingaw. Okay, the human tendency is to seek pleasure. Yes, as we grow older from childhood to adulthood, so we need to enjoy life. So pleasure to reality and self-control. We should let our children to experience pleasure. Okay, so experience so that they were able to establish good thing about pleasure to reality. So the human tendency is to seek pleasure and to avoid pain and discomfort. Yes, we always avoid pain and discomfort. So if it gives pleasure to us, we will do it again. If it gives pain and discomfort, we will not do it again. So as the child matures, the reality principle takes over, and the child realizes that he or she perceives and faces reality. Okay, so we need to teach them that way, that you need to know how to do self-control, and you also need to face reality because that's part of life. The number three is the ignorance to knowledge. Okay, because they are still young, so they don't know anything about it. They need our advices, they need our guidance. So research data show that infants at birth are not blank slates. Okay, so infants, so based on science, when you talk about ignorance to knowledge, no, they don't know anything, but research data show that infants at birth are not blank slates. So they know, they know, no? So on the if you have a baby right now, no, you will observe your baby doing some reflexes, instinctive behavior patterns like crying when they are hungry, like kicking their feet, no, when they don't like something like that. So the first 2 years are characterized by the rapid acquisition of information about themselves and the world. So 2 years old, so the baby, the infant is now aware of what is happening to the world, no, and trying to get to know themselves a little bit. So that's why they contest that infant and at birth are not blank slates because of the reflexes and their instinctive behavior patterns. The number 4 is incompetence to competent. So as the child mature, when we were still younger, we are so dependent with our parents, right? Intellectually, emotionally, and social and other competencies essential to us. So as we grow along, so the person acquires skills in problem solving and decision making, learns to control emotions and to use them for the enrichment of living, and learn to deal with others and to establish satisfying relationship. Yes, from birth onward to childhood and adolescence, so we develop that higher we develop the intellectual, emotional, social, and other competencies, right? So from knowing nothing about how to do things right, our parents taught us how to be competent, from being incompetent to competent level. So how do we handle ourselves? Diffuse to articulated self-identity. Okay, so the core self-identity gradually emerges as the infant differentiates himself or herself from the environment. Yes, we have our sense of self-identity. When you talk about diffuse, sometimes we are so confused with our own identity. So we also need to be aware of that. So we need to give awareness of oneself as a boy or a girl. So the reactions of the feedback from the people around the child also gives him a quick glimpse about his own identity. Okay, so in the process, the child may also suffer confusion because of the input from the external sources of information may be inconsistent. So for example, if you have a boy, so the responses of the environment also played a major role in how he identifies himself as part of the society. So the self identity. So if the input from the external sources of information is inconsistent with how the boy perceived himself, so possibly that is where confusion appears. So the child may suffer from confusion because of the inconsistent information that he received from other people. So diffuse to articulated self-identity. So for example, I am a female, so I am regarded as a female by my family and by the other people. So if I am a female and they regarded me as a boy and I regarded myself as a girl, so possibly I also experience confusion. So that is based on science. So number 6 is the amoral to moral. So children learn very early in life that certain forms of behavior are right, good, correct, while others are bad, wrong, and incorrect to do. Okay, so as they mature, they learn a pattern of value assumption that operate as inner guide and controls the behavior, which Freud calls the superego or conscience in the psychoanalytic theory of behavior. Okay, so let's make it simple from amoral to moral. So the idea of this one is when we were still young, very young as children, no, we learn a lot of things, and we are taught how to do the right thing, the good and the correct. We also taught about the bad, the wrong, and incorrect to do. So we learn a lot of things. So as we mature, we also have this conscience principle, no, implemented or developed by Sigmund Freud, that children tend to repel the good behavior taught from them at the beginning, but soon with increasing maturity, they learn to appraise them and to work out a value orientation of their own. So at first, at first they will do bad things, but later on when they realize that it is not good for them, so they change it because of the superego or the conscience principle, from doing bad thing to from amoral to moral, from bad to good. Okay, so individual differences are observed in the rate and pace of personality development. So we are so different because of our upbringings, because of how we are influenced with our physical and sociocultural environment. That's why we are different. So adults should guide the children in going through the process of personality development so that they can grow up to be self-regulation and self-directing persons well into adulthood. So adults like me should guide our children so that they will become self-regulated and self-directed persons well into adulthood. So we all have a role. So if you have siblings, you also teach them the right, the good way, and try to change the bad things that they're doing. So it is our role so that they will become good persons well into adulthood. Individuals who are not able to gain the skills and competencies at the right stage of development become at risk for developing behavior problems, emotional and behavioral disorders. So if we are not able, again, if I am not able to gain the required skills and competencies at the right stage of development, I am at risk of developing emotional and behavioral problems or disorders. So this is true to all. We need to guide our youth, we need to guide our children for them to become self-regulated, self-directed persons well into adulthood. If we will not do that, if we are so blinded with that need, so possibly those children or youth, they are become at risk of developing negative behavior, negative behavior problems, emotional and behavioral disorders. Okay, so this is a very long discussion, so I will cut this way. So thank you. So we will have another lesson or part 2 for this lesson. So I really hope you are learning for this very quick video. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you again for my next video blog. Thank you and God bless you. Thank you.